only the hunger can know the pain.
Yeah, it's being live streamed.
Thank you, ma'am.
So yes, I'll be sharing the screen. Today will be our last class. We will be discussing the second half of the block 5. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
So as yesterday we have discussed about organizational change and organizational development, right? In that we have seen about techniques which would be helpful for us to manage the change and implement the change. So in today's class, we would be looking at the last topic left in organizational development. Should I go through all the screens for your reference? So we have learned about organizational learning, right? How we have to emphasize on the continuous learning in the organizations and all. Then we have spoken about the techniques used, OD techniques, which are the change implementation techniques which we use in order to manage the change. And we have discussed about the action research now. So this is the last topic which is left under organizational development. So we'll be talking about psychological contract. It is also called as contractual relationship. So generally you all know about the employment contract, right? The legal contract, the employer would be making the employee to sign and all, in which all the rules and regulations will be mentioned, what the employee has to be doing and what he or she shouldn't be doing. Everything would be mentioned, and after reading all the rules and regulations and abiding by that, either they would be accepting, if it is digital they would be accepting that uh, contract, or if it is online they would offline they would be signing on the contract. But when we are talking about a contractual relationship or psychological contract, here what happens is that this is the relationship between the employer and the employee. Here it is entirely different from the employment contract or the legal contract. Here what the organization or the employees do is that there is no written agreement. It is just the unwritten agreement between the employee and the employers. So they would be having some expectations. The employees would be having some expectations on their employers, and the employers would in turn would be having expectations on their employees. So this is about the expectations, how the employers and employees hold about each other, and how by communicating these expectations, what happens is that the mutual trust, loyalty, etc., would be strengthened. So these psychological contract is of 4 types: transactional psychological contract, transitional psychological contract, balanced psychological contract, and relational psychological contract. So, when we are talking about what are the different expectations the employee holds towards the employers, is that they would be paying equal rewards, they would be giving a pay for whatever task they would be doing, they would be recognizing the employees' work, providing good work environment, etc. But talking about employers' expectation towards their employee, they would be feeling that the employee should be putting that effort, they should be working hard, they should be completing the task on time without any delay in the task, etc. These would all be the expectations. So what happens is that in an informal setting or in an informal way, they would be communicating these expectations to each other. The organization or the manager, whoever is present, they would be communicating the expectations to the employee. In turn the employee also communicates it with the employer. So If this contract is maintained, as in this agreement is maintained, then the mutual trust, loyalty, etc. would be developed. If it is not maintained, or if there is breach in this contract, what happens is that there would be disappointment, aggression, etc., either towards the organization, or organization might also be having these disappointment towards their employees if they breach this contract. So talking about the transactional psychological contract, it is that transactions. What is transaction? For whatever work you do, or for whatever task you complete, you should be getting equal pay. You should be getting that transaction, right? You would be completing that task, and you should be getting the pay from the organization. And this is very short time, only related to the task. This psychological contract. So in this, what happens is that how this task should be performed, the organization or the management would be communicating it with you, and after complete, you would be completing that project, and you would be having some expectations after completing it, this task. So the organization fulfills your expectations. So that is about a transactional psychological contract. For the tasks you do, you would be getting paid. That is only for the short time till the task completes. Then comes transitional psychological contract. So in these transitional psychological contract, what happens is that yesterday we have discussed about organizational change, right? How people would be resisting change, and how there are certain forces which would be factors which would be forcing the organization to change, implement the change. So whenever this change process has been initiated or implemented, it becomes difficult for the employees to cope up with it. There are many resistant forces, right? So it is the organization's duty to uh, provide training programs as such. So here, the what would be the expectations of employee, that the organization should be providing with the training programs, so that they can develop their skills and abilities. So, what would be the organization expecting from their employees? That they have to adapt to the change. They should be learning new skills and knowledge, so that they would be able to be a part of this change. So, this is about transitional psychological contract, wherein as the change happens, whether if any structural change, cultural change, or a slight change in technology or something, the employers expect the support from the organization, and the organization wants support from the um, employees. Then comes balanced psychological contract. So in these balanced psychological contract, as in you all know about equity theory, right? In motivational theories, we have discussed about equity theory, wherein we would be discussing about how whether our pay is equal to the pay which the organization is paying to the other individual. So it is regarding the fair pay to every employee who does the same work. Equal justice, distributional justice comes under balanced psychological contract. This is about fair pay. Then comes relational psychological contract. So this relational psychological contract is long term, because in this relational psychological contract, what happens, both the employee and employer tries to maintain and build their relationship, as in the employees would be doing their work, and the organization would be recognizing that work, rewarding that work. So during this process, what happens is that there would be a mutual trust, mutual respect, mutual cooperation. So all these would be developed when relational psychological contract would be maintained. So if there is any breach or something in this contract, what happens is that there would be disappointment either in employees or from the management side. So if the disappointment is from the management side, then that would lead to demotions, as in they might be cutting the pay, or you might be demoted to the lower level of hierarchy. If it is from the employees, they might not work that enthusiastically, they might not get engaged in organization. So that is about relational, all the psychological contract. It is also called as contractual relationship. So then after implementing change, using any of the approaches and everything, after performance evaluation of the employees, it is very important for us to evaluate the overall organizational performance. So we implemented the change because we wanted to develop the organization. So in order to know whether this change has impacted any development in the organization, whether this has influence the performance, whether this increase the performance. So we should be evaluating the overall organizational performance, whether it has been improved or not. If it is improved, how much it has been improved since the change has been made, or any slight changes has been implemented. All that should be evaluated in order to know that whether this change has been useful, or whether they have to implement any further strategies to improve the performance of the organization. And also it is important for us to understand the organizations, right? So each and every organization has different structure. They are located in different environments. They would be using different technologies. So we should be understanding that organization. Based on the understanding of the organization, by understanding structure, culture, everything, then only we would be able to implement any of the strategies or the techniques. So we are done with our organizational development. Now we'll be looking into organizational effectiveness. So talking about organizational effectiveness, it is the extent to which an organization achieves its goals and objectives while utilizing its resources efficiently. So, in order for the organization to become effective or efficient, what it has to do is that it has to use its resources effectively, as in it would be leading to increased performance, adaptiveness, increased knowledge and skills of the employees, etc. So there are some core elements of organizational effectiveness, as in all these elements are very much important for the organizations to focus on these elements, because only if these elements are present, if they are implemented in a correct manner, then the organization becomes effective. So the first one is clear goals and objectives. So it is important for an organization to frame goals and objectives. So in these framing goals and objective process, they have to also take inputs from the employee, because the objectives which the wherein the if the employee gives their inputs, it would be easier for them to achieve that goals. And also goals provide us with direction, as in the employees with the direction. So the employees would be clearer that in which direction they have to go, what they have to do, how they have to go. Everything would be clearer if they set goals. And also the goals they would be setting should be smart goals, as in it should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Then comes strategic planning. So in these phase, what they have to do is that they have to plan everything before implementing that, before implementing any changes or anything, uh, whether when you are recruiting staff, as in the employees or anything, you have to plan for that, as in how many positions are there in the organization, how many hierarchical levels are there, how many employees does they require. Everything should be planned. What all the techniques should be used in the organization, what are the strategies we would be using. So everything we would be focusing on, we would be planning strategically. We would be using different strategies to plan, which would be making the organization easier for the organization to implement that changes. Then comes efficient resource allocation. So in these efficient resource allocation, what there is that the organization should be paying close attention to resource allocation. If the organization doesn't provide the employees or the managers with the efficient resources, which resources are required, if they won't be allocating that resources, it would be difficult for the employees to work or take that task forward. So whatever the resources have been provided, it should be efficient in manner. They should be in good, proper working conditions, so that it helps the employees to work efficiently and improve their performance. Then comes strong leadership. So we have seen, right, how leadership plays an very important role in the organization. How the leader inspires or motivates the other employees. So it is important for the organization to select leaders. They can use any of the approaches, as in we have discussed. Either they can go for situational contingency theories, wherein based on the situation they might be bringing different leaders, or based on the employees, they would be based on the conditions, they would be bringing different leaders. So whomever they treat as leaders, they should be careful when selecting the leaders, because they will be the one who would be motivating the other employees. Then comes employee engagement and development. So even in the goals framing process, or if there is any problem in the organization or something, in order to solve that problem or in order to frame goals, it is important for the organization to take inputs from its employees. So when the organization values inputs from the employees, they would be more engaging in the organization. They would be trying to look for new solutions to the problems, or else they would be framing their goals very clearer and etc. So the engagement of the employees would be increased. Eventually when the engagement of the employee would be increased, there would be eventually development of the employee. If you don't take any inputs from the employee or anything, so there won't be that much engagement, and the organization also doesn't get so many inputs. So they have to only be, if they stick only with the managers to take the input, there would be only 5 to 6 managers in that organization. So when you are ready to take inputs from all the employees of the organization, when you are engaging them in the decision making process, it also helps for the development. Comes performance evaluation and feedback. So we have seen that how performance the evaluation is important, how it can act as a motivational tool, how we can so after performance evaluation we would be knowing how the employees are performing. If there are any discrepancies between the expected performance and actual performance, we would be giving feedback to the employee in a constructive manner. As in, if there is discrepancy, you would be letting the employee know, and then the employee will also know that they should be correcting or improving certain skills, which would be eventually leading to the employee growth and as well as the organizational growth. Then comes effective communication. So if all these goals and objectives are not communicated enough to the employees, and if the employees are not being able to share their problems with the organization, what happens is that if there is no effective communication, if there is lack of communication between employees in the organization, then interpersonal relationships can't be built good enough, right? So if there is a effective communication, if the communication is in a proper manner, what happens is that it helps in building trust between employees, and also trust between employees and the organization. Employees would be becoming loyal, interpersonal relations would be developed. All that would be uh, possible only with effective communication. So all these 7 factors are elements of organizational effectiveness. As in order to make the organization effective, the organization has to focus on all these 7 elements. Then comes POSD, CORP. So this is an acronym, right? Every letter stands for the word. P stands for planning, O stands for organizing, S stands for staffing, D stands for directing, CO stands for coordinating, R stands for reporting, and B stands for budgeting. So in order to establish an organization or any business, whenever you wanted to establish an organization or business, the first step you have to take is that planning. So you have to plan what would be the structure of the organization, who would be the members of the organization, how many levels of hierarchy would be there in that organization. You should be planning everything, who all would be part of that, whether you would be establishing this organization solely, or you would be having any other partner. So if you are having the other partner, what would be the share distribution between both of you? Everything should be planned. So that would be the first step. Then the second step would be organizing. So after planning, you would be having the broad plan, right? What would be there and how it would be there. You would be having the broad plan. So you would be dividing these broad plan into sectors, as in how many. Then you would be knowing that suppose you would be having four hierarchical levels. So in the organization, what you will be doing is that who all will be there in that organizational level, what would be the first organizational hierarchical level, as in who would be there in this first level and how does it go, everything you would be organizing. So then after organizing what all you want, everything, you would be knowing that you did job analysis, and you would be knowing how many job positions are there, and who you wanted to recruit, and with what qualifications, everything you would be organized. And after that you would be moving to staffing. So here what you will be doing is that you would be selecting human resources, as in the employees. You would be selecting the employees for the different job positions, either for managerial position or the employees, or there would be different departments, right, in an organization. So you would be selecting different employees with different qualification for different departments. After selecting the staff, if you feel that the employees require any training or something, you would be giving in this staffing stage only. Then comes directing. So you have recruited, you have selected the employees, and they have started coming to the organization, they have started working. So even though after recruiting, after selecting the employees, they join the company, etc., it is important for the organization, as in the managers or the management has to direct the employees, because when the employee joins as a fresher, right, so he or she doesn't have any idea what to do, how to do, where to do, which environment will be provided to them to work, etc. They don't know anything. So regarding all these matters, it is important for the management to direct their employees. Then comes after directing, you would be coaching them, you would be guiding them, right? After guiding them, they would be doing their performance, they would be performing, they would be indulged in activities in the organization. Then comes coordinating. Even after guiding and coaching them, you have to coordinate with them, as in the managers, the management would be going to the employees, and they would be asking how is the work till where the activity, the task has been completed, and how many days more it would be taking to complete it, whether if there would be any changes made in the activity or the task they are doing, everything would be coordinated to the so after coordinating, when the task is done and when the goals have been achieved, objectives have been achieved, it is important for the employees to report to someone, right? So after there would be team lead and also manager. So the team lead, after the completion of the project, would be going and reporting that the project given has been completed, and they would be submitting that project. That would be about reporting. So you would be specifying for the employees whom they should be reporting, where, when they should be reporting, within how much, within what period they should be reporting. Everything would be specified. Then comes budgeting. So in these budgeting, what happens is that the organization would be working on the budget, as in how much budget would be given to employees, what would be the budget allocated for resource allocation, etc. All that financial aspects would be dealt. Whether if there is a profit or loss, if there is profit in what they would be investing further, if there would be any changes made, so that would be looking, the financial aspects would be under budget. So this is about the acronym PSODCORP. It stands for planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. So for the organization to function properly, if we divide into all these stages before establishing an organization or even establishing an organization, it makes the organization so that they can use much from their staff in the organization. They can use much of the organization's employees. I hope this is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
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 ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
can share this PPTs also, last class and this class PPTs, it will be easy.
Actually, what happened? There is some font issues, so I'm being unable to share these PPTs.
Okay, if it's today is not possible, you can share it later, like tomorrow or day after in the group, so we can go through all this.
You are there in the group, ma'am.
Yeah?
You are there in WhatsApp group.
No, I am not there in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, there, ma'am. You have mentioned also.
No, she's there in practical classes group.
Oh,
Or you can forward to one of our members and then we forward in the group.
Yeah, sure. Till then, if you want, I'll be starting the screen after we are done with all the slides. I'll be again starting the screen. You can take screenshots.
Yeah, I'm taking them.
So now we would be dealing with time management. So it is important for every organization to manage their time and also the employees in the organization. Yes. Any doubt?
By mistake, someone has kept her phone microphone open.
So in this time management, what we have to do, this is about employees. Now first we would be talking about employees, how employees can be managing their time so that they can use the time efficiently. The first one would be set goals and objectives. So the employees has to set their goals and the goals should be smart, as in that goals should be specific, what to be done and how it should be done, and within how much time it should be done, whether it is measurable even after achieving the goal, whether you can measure your performance or not. Everything should be clear. So the goals should be clear, goals should be set. Then after setting goals, out of these goals, so the goals can be short term, long term, right? So out of these goals there would be many different goals. So out of these goals you have to set priorities, as in which goal has to be completed first. First you have to focus on, if you doesn't do this work or the goal, if you don't achieve this goal in today, then it might be leading to major consequences. That will be your first level, you will be giving priority to that goals. Then the second would be, if you don't complete these goals in 1 or 2 days, that would be leading to some negative consequences. And the third would be, even though if you don't complete these goals, the long term goals, right? The long term goals have time. You no need to always work on the long term goals because you have time. When you have short term goals and long term goals, you'll be mostly focusing on short term goals. You'll be setting first priority on the short term goals, because if they are not done, then that would be problematic even to achieve the long term goals. So out of the goals and objectives set, you have to set the priorities. The employees have to set the priorities, what to be done and what not to be done. Then comes planning. So after setting priorities, they have to plan what all they should be doing, what all resources are, what all resources they need, how much time they have to invest. Everything should be planned. So after planning, they would be organizing their work. They would be so even in one goal also there would be different works, right? So there would be work wise, or whether if there is any similarities between any two works or something, they would be organizing that works. So then comes delegating. So in this, what happens is that in most of the organizations, all the work is taken by one single employee. Or if you are a part of the group or something, there would be social loafing, as in other employees won't be doing anything and you will be taking the whole work, right? So in such situations, you should be able to say no to them, as in you should be distributing the responsibility between all the employees of that group. That is about delegating, as in you have to distribute the responsibilities or the work between the employees in that group, members of that group. Then comes flexibility. So after setting goals, you will be having some timetable, right? As in, this would be your first priority and everything. So even if you have all planned and organized, also sometimes you should be flexible. As in, there would be different situations. So if the situation changes, you have to be moving away from your priorities. You should be able to be flexible, even though if this is not the order you should be following. If the order changes also, you should be able to work on that efficiently only. So this is about time management of the employees. They can use all these strategies to all these steps in order to manage their time. So talking about organizational management, right? So there is efficient management and there is effective management. So in efficient time management, the organization solely focus on using the resources they have. So whatever resources they have in their organization, right, they would be using that resources and they would be setting some time to use that resources and do their work on time. And in these efficient time management, what they would be doing is that they would be outsourcing their some of their works. As in, they would be calling some expert or they would be giving work to experts so that this time would be utilized by their employees and they can do any other important works in this time. So when we are talking about the effective time management, so in this what happens is that the main focus is on setting goals and achieving them. So in this we have discussed about management by objectives in performance evaluation, right? So the organization and the employees come together, they would be setting goals, and the goals they set also, they would be smart goals, as in time bound. It is time bound, right? So with there would be deadlines. So within these deadlines, the employees would be planning to complete their work. So that are the two techniques or strategies the management would be usually using in order to manage the time.
So, madam, we can say efficiency is about utilizing the resources, and
Yes.
effectiveness is about obtaining results.
Yes, I mean, after setting goals, attaining that goals is the results.
Now, when we talk of effectiveness,
Yeah,
we are focusing more on results.
yeah, focusing
Obtaining.
more. Yes. Obtaining results, because if the goals have been achieved, then the task is done, right? We are getting our results eventually.
And that is true. Efficiency is about utilizing the resources well.
Yeah.
And effectiveness means whether we are obtaining the results or not,
Yeah,
achieving the goals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how we are achieving that goals by setting smart goals. That is what they focus on. Then comes change management. So in yesterday's class, we have already discussed about two approaches, right? Levin's 3-step model and also Koto's 8-step model. So that models explain us how to manage the change. So there are also other two models which we can use in order to manage change. This is ADKR. This is an acronym. ADKR, Change Management Model, as in each letter stands for one word. A stands for awareness, D stands for desire, K stands for knowledge, A stands for ability, and R stands for reinforcement. So in these, in order to implement the change, what is change management? Implementing the change and reinforcing that change, as in stabilizing that change, right? So in this, the change management process, the first step would be awareness of the need for change. So you should make the employees aware of the change. So why the organization wanted to implement this change? What are the benefits of this change? What are the disadvantages if the change is not being able to implemented? If the employees won't be adapting to this change, what will happen? Everything related to that organizational change. What aspect of the organization would be changed? Whether there would be any changes in their job roles, so whether they should be learning new skills or knowledge, everything they have to, the employees should be aware of the change, any related aspects related to that change. Then comes desire to participate and support the change. So after being aware, the employees should have the desire to change. So we have seen in Levin's model, right? So in order to make that desire, as in the employees holding that desire, what we have to do is that either we have to improve the driving factors, or else we have to eliminate the restricting factors, right? So by eliminating restricting factors and improving the driving factors, the employees would be having the desire to participate in that change. And also the when the organization asks the inputs from the employees, how what are the different strategies we can use to change, or they take inputs from that employees, then also the desire to participate would be increased. Then the third step would be knowledge of how to change. So it is important for the employees to have the knowledge how they should be changed, what all skills they should be having. So they have to have that knowledge of change. In this, the organization has to provide them with training. So they would be having that knowledge, even though if the change has been implemented, the new technology or something has been implemented, they would be having some training and they would be having that knowledge on that particular new technology. So it would be easier for them to adapt to their change or accept that change. Then comes ability to implement desired skills and behavior. So after receiving training, how much, whether you have the ability to implement the skills you have learned or not, everything would be assessed by the organization in this stage. If you feel that you have the ability, as in self-efficacy, right? We have discussed about self-efficacy, wherein self-efficacy is that the confidence of the employee that he or she would be able to do that task. Even here also, if the employee has the confidence that he has the ability to cope up with the change or accept the change, then that is about the fourth stage. They would be able to accept the change. Then comes reinforcement to sustain the change. So after all these steps are completed, the last step would be after change has been implemented, the employees have been habituated to the new technology. The organization should be careful that they should be providing reinforcement, as in they should be giving tasks related to only the new technology. If they feel that one particular task can be done even with the old technology, what happens is that they would be reverting back to the uh, older technology which they used, and because they are also experienced in that technology, most of them would be reverting back. So the organization should be careful, and they would be reinforcing the new change so that it would be sustained in the organization. So this is one of the model of change management wherein we use in order to implement the change or manage the change. Then comes McKinsey's 7S model. So in this model is given by McKinsey. So he gave 7 factors. He told that all these factors are interconnected. Even if there is slight changes in any one of the factors, then all the other factors would also be affected. So in order to make the organization effective, or if you wanted to implement a change in any one of the systems, you have to go through, I mean, you have to even look after all the other systems, how it would be affecting the other systems, then only you have to start implementing the change. The first one is strategy. So what should we do to solve this specific, if there is any problem, what all strategies you would be using, what all techniques usually you would be using in the organization, that is about strategy. Then comes structure. You would be saying whether it is bureaucratic structure, matrix structure, or simple structure. What is the structure which the organization is holding? So if whether there should be any changes in the organizational structure in order to develop the organization, you have to look at. So if there is any slight changes in the strategies used, whether you have to change the structure or not, whether there would be change in the structure or not, you have to look after it. Then only you should be implementing the new strategies. Then comes systems. So what systems you would be using, as in what are the strategies, what are the different systems, as in what are the different subsystems. Generally, organization is considered as a system, and there would be different subsystems in the organization, as in there would be different departments wherein employees would be working. So if there is any slight change in any one of the system, how different how other subsystems would get affected, everything we have to be keeping in mind in order to make any changes. Then comes shared values. So what McKinsey says is that shared values is the core of all these 7 factors. So these shared values, we can't be when we are talking about strategy, structure, systems, everything is visible. But when we are talking about shared values, it is what we hold, what the employees hold, or what the organization holds. It consists of vision and mission, everything, right? So what all whether the employee should be genuine, they should be loyal, everything that values. So if you implement any change based on any of the forced change, right, as in due to the environmental factors or something, if you implement change, as in you are going against your values, if you go against the organizational values or employees values, then it would be affecting the employees, it would be affecting the structure, it would be affecting the system, right? So we should be careful what all changes we are implementing, and whether these changes are in accordance with the shared values or not. So if there is any slight changes in these shared values, all the other 6 factors would be eventually affected. Then comes style. So what is the management style? What is the leadership style? Generally, the organization would be using. All this comes under style. Then comes staffs. So who are the employees? How many employees did you recruited? What all job specification you gave to them? What are the job roles you have allocated to them? If you bring changes in the organization, whether you have to bring new training methods to train the employees, whether the employees would be facing any difficulties, everything you would be looking into. Then comes skills. So what are the skills, what are the knowledge the staff has been holding, everything would be coming under skills, as in the knowledge, whether these skills would be able to cope up with this change, or else they have to provide the employees with training different skills, and in order to learn these skills, whether it would be difficult for the employees to learn these new skills or not. So based on all these 7 factors, by putting so strategy, structure, and system, he considered them as hard S. So he divided into soft S and hard S. When he is talking about hard S, right? So there are 3 factors which are strategy, structure, and systems. So the organization has direct say on it, as in even though if there are changes in this, the management can be influencing all these factors directly, as in they can change their structure, they can change their system and strategies. But talking about style, staff, skills, and shared values, the management can directly influence, because the employees are involved in it, and also the managers are involved in it. They have to also take input from all of them. So they are called as soft S. Shared values, style, staff, and skills are called as soft S, and the strategy, structure, and systems are called as hard S, because the management has the ability to directly influence them. As all these soft S, they are even the employees and the managers also hold some values, and in order to learn that skill, the employees should be willing to learn that skills, right? So that would be dependent on the employees also. They have to take the input from the employees, and then only they can implement that change. So that is about McKinsey model, wherein before implementing change, all these factors should be considered, and if there is change in any one of these factors, how the other 6 factors would be affected. All this should also be analyzed. Then comes factors of successful change management. So in order to implement implement the change, or adapt the employees to adapt to the change, there are 6 factors wherein one is planning. So if it is unplanned change, right, there would be very much uncertainty, and there are very much restricting factors would be more when it is unplanned change. They have to look for the resources. There would be very much chaos in that. When you plan the change, right, what to do and how to do, who all would be involved in that. If you plan that change, it would be easier for employees and all as well as the organization to go smoothly through the change process. Then comes communicating. So after planning the strategies and techniques you would be using, what all changes would be done, it is important for the organization to communicate it with the employees. What all they have decided, what all they have planned, they have to communicate it with their employees. Then comes so in this, both the stakeholders, if there are any stakeholders or the employees, you have to integrate them, as in you have to combine them, and you have to take even inputs from the employees and also the stakeholders in this change management process. Then only this change management would be moving smoothly. Then comes motivate. So you have to motivate your employees. It is very much difficult because employees have been habituated to one particular structure or one particular technology, right? Transition from to the new technology or the new structure makes them very much anxious, stressful. So in all these situations you would be able to motivate your employees by removing the barriers in the change process, or by providing driving forces, etc. You should be able to motivate your employees. Then comes manage the workload. So in this process, what happens is that learning new skills, gaining new knowledge, everything, sometimes the employees might take a long time only in completing one work or one task. So during this, the organization should be able to manage that workload. They should be able to support the employees. And even though if there is a very much workload, they should be either outsourcing their work, they should be looking for other alternatives to manage their workload, or else they should be giving time to the same employees to complete the same work, etc. Then comes evaluate. So after the change, the plan has been implemented and everyone has given their inputs and everything, you have been implementing the change, right? So after you have been implementing the change, you have to evaluate. You have initiated the change and implemented this. Why did you start implementing the change? Because in order to develop your organizational performance, or else if there is no change, then you might not become the competitor in the environment. So after implementing change, you have to look whether the change implemented is effective or not. So all these 6 factors makes the change management successful. If you focus on all these 6 factors. Then come structures, organizational structures, right? There will be different structures in an organization. So there are 3 main structures. One is simple structure, one is bureaucracy, and the other one is matrix structure. So on what basis we would be deciding on these structures or organizational designs is that on the basis of departmentalization, formalization, chain of command, who would be in the authority. Formalization as in whether the task involved or whether any work involved in this organization is standardized or not, as in there would be some standardized procedure to carry this work. So if there is a standardized procedure to carry any work, we say that the organization is formalized, or the structure is formalized structure. Then comes departmentalization. Departmentalization as in whether there are different departments in the organization, or the organization has only one department. That all will be coming under departmentalization. Then comes span of control. Span of control as in there would be different managers, right? So if the control is in the hands of the manager, or wide span of control as in he would be able to control all the employees under the manager. If there is narrow span of control as in there would be many employees and there would be less control in the hands of the manager. So talking about simple structure, In simple structure, there would be low degree of departmentalization, as in there wouldn't be many departments, and also there would be very low hierarchy, as in there would be only 2 to 3 hierarchical levels in simple structure. And there is very little formalization, as in there is no specific way to do the task or anything. You can choose any of the way, you can choose any of the way to complete that work. So it is called as flat organization because there are not much hierarchical levels. And here the authority, as in the decision making authority, would be is centralized. Centralized as in the decision making power would be only with one individual who is in the higher hierarchy. Other one is called as decentralized. When we are talking about decentralized, as in there would be many decision making authorities. The managers can be taking decision, then later their boss would be taking decision, or team leaders also can be taking decisions. That is decentralization, as in the decision making power has been divided between hierarchical levels. When we are talking about centralized, as in the decision making power is only within one individual or one hierarchical level. So when we are talking about simple structure, there would be low department, not more than 2 to 3 departments, not more than 2 to 3 hierarchies. The decision making ability would be only with one individual, that is the head. And also no formalization, as in there is no specific way to do the task. Then comes bureaucracy. So when we are talking about bureaucracy, right, there would be strict rules and regulation. There would be formalized rule, as in you should be doing the one particular task in only one way. You shouldn't be using any other ways to complete that task. And it is centralized, as in the decision making ability is only with one individual. And narrow span of control, as in there would be less control of the manager on the subordinates as such. And also there would be when we are talking about bureaucracy, right, there would be many levels in the hierarchy. In order to take in many a times bureaucracy is considered as not so good structure. Whenever people talk about bureaucracy, they would be thinking that it is not much good structure, because what happens is that if any decision is to be made or anything to be communicated, it takes much time. So there are many levels of hierarchy, right? So the communication won't be, the lower level of hierarchy can't be having direct communication with the higher level of hierarchy. They should be only moving from level to level. So it takes time. If it is any emergency, or if you have to solve this problem immediately, then also you shouldn't be taking any actions in such situation also, because if you take any actions, you would be responsible for the actions you have taken. You have to, even though it takes time, you have to wait for the higher authority to rest. That is about bureaucratic structure. Then comes matrix structure. So in matrix structure, what people do is that there would be two bosses, as in universities, right? In universities, there would be different departments and also administration department. In some of the universities, there would also be hostels. So when you are having vice principals or something, you would be having a principal for academics, and a vice principal who would be looking at administration and hostel responsibility. As in, you would be having two bosses to report. In the this is very much useful, but also there would be a confusion in the employees whom to report, where to go, to which boss we have to report. And also even there would be constant conflict between the bosses to know who is in the higher hierarchical level, etc. Mostly in an organization, on what basis you would be deciding two bosses is that one would be based on the functions and one would be based on the products developed in the organization. So these are the three main structures which most organizations would be using. And there are also modern organizational method that is called as virtual organization, which can also be called as network or modular organization. So in these type of organization, what happens is that the people come together only for a period of time. movies, right? In movies, what happens? Many different people would be bored. They would be coming. They would be doing their work. All the individuals won't be. All the actors won't be working on the one day, right? So whenever the actors has the shot, they would be coming. They would be doing their shot, and they would be leaving. Then for other shots, the other people would be coming and shooting for that. After the movie is done, then everyone would be dispersed. Even in the organizations also the same happens. The employees would be brought together in these virtual organization. Tasks are divided between the employees, and after the goals and objectives have been achieved, generally projects, right? So in an organization there would be different projects, but these when we are talking about virtual organization, there would be only meeting for the project. As in, if there is one project from one of the client, they would be meeting, they would be hiring the employees, and after completion of that project, they would be submitting the project to that client, and then they would be dispersing. So if there is other project, there won't be the same employees, but there would be other employees coming, they would be meeting, doing their task, and then they would be dispersed. That is about virtual organization or network or modular organization. Then comes, so in order to understand organization or the management, there are contemporary theories of management, we call them. So these contemporary theories as in modern theories which we use in organization, so they can be divided into two types: system approach and contingency approach. So we will be first dealing with the system approach, right? In system approach, when we are talking about a system is considered as collection of parts that relate to one another in particular ways so that the whole can serve a purpose. As in, so in system approach, what happens is that organization is considered as a system, and also this system has different subsystems. So when we are talking about a system, there would be different subsystems, and all these subsystems would be interdependent and interrelated to each other. So even the system approach says that organization is a system, and in that system there are many different subsystems, as in we would be having different departments, right? So there would be different subsystems, and each would be dependent on one another, and they are interlinked. So systems can be of two types: open system and closed system. Talking about open system, as in these systems would be interacting with the environment, and they would be having direct influence of the environment on the organization or the system. When we are talking about closed system, as in they won't be interacting with the environment, they are closed, even though if there are changes in the environment also, these organization won't get affected. So according to this system approach, most of the organizations are open systems, as in they would be interacting with the environment, and even though if there are slight changes in the environment also, even the organization would get affected with that slight changes. So as you all can see, right? So according to this system approach, what it states is that the organization takes its inputs from the environment and transforms or processes these inputs into outputs. And from these outputs would be again given to the environment eventually. So this is, as you all can see, these inputs, right? The raw materials, human resources, capital, technology, information, all these would be taken from the environment, and they would be processing these input. As in, you would be asking the employees to work, you would be using the materials. If it is manufacturing company or something, you would be bringing the raw materials, and you would be manufacturing the product in the transformation process. After transformation process, what happens is that input converts into output. What are the output? You would be manufacturing products, right? The products and services, financial results, human results, the performance of the employee, organizational performance, how many products have been manufactured, what are the services delivered by that particular organization. Everything would be under output. So these inputs are also received from the environment, and even these outputs would be given back to the environment. So based on these output, after receiving these output, after analyzing the output, they can give feedback to the input. The organization based on the output would be giving feedback to the input. So based on the employees' performance, organizational performance, what the organization do is that after evaluating the performance, they would be giving the feedback to the employees as in how did they perform, whether they met the expectations of the organization or not, what is the difference between or discrepancy between the expected performance and actual performance. Everything would be included in that feedback. So the contributors of this approach include Chester Bernard, Daniel Katz, Robert Kahn, Rice, and Pope. So they all contributed this. First, Chester Bernard has contributed to this approach. Then later, it has been taken forward by Katz, Kahn, Rice, and Pope. So what they say is that many of these today's organization are open systems. They would eventually interact and get influenced by the environment. Even though there are slightest changes in the environment also, these organizations are sensitive to that changes. For example, we have seen, right, when we are talking about forces of change, there are many factors which force the organization to change. So all that factors come under the environmental factors. Then comes every system has a boundary, as in this boundary helps the organization to separate the organization from the environment, and it helps to decide what would be the internal parts and what would be the external parts. So in the internal parts comes all the employees, rules, regulations, policies framed, and talking about the external parts of the organization, then that would be customers, clients, uh, who would be giving projects, the one would be giving our clients, right? Clients, customers, everyone would be coming under external parts of the organization, whereas internal parts of the organization include the rules, regulation, policies framed, employees, everyone come under the internal part of the organization. So, in order to derive the strength of the system mainly would be based on the interaction and interrelation between the subsystems of the organization. So, there are different departments in the organization, right? There would be manufacturing department, sales department, marketing department. There would be different departments. So, the strength of the organization strengthens when all these departments together interact with each other and share their inputs and work coordinatingly. Then it would be strengthening the organization. So mostly this system approach is based on the principle that whole is greater than sum of its parts. As in the whole performance is greater, even though if marketing department does some work, sales department does some work, and also the manufacturing department, sales department, and marketing department, right? They individually does some work. So if you individually weigh that work, that won't be valued much. But all together, if you weigh this, then that would be valued much. So whole is greater than sum of its parts. So this works on this principle. And also it helps the manager to know, as the manager knows that this approach follows that every system should be coordinated, they should be interacting, they should be cooperating with each other. So as the manager know that, he would be coordinating with all the systems and he would be directing or communicating with all the system. If there are any changes, he would be telling the changes and everything, coordinating work activities among all the systems. And what happens is that as all the subsystems are related, even though if there is slight change or something in one system, it affects all the other systems. Any decisions made, any actions taken, everything would be affecting the other systems also because they are interconnected. So, what is the problem with this approach is that this approach stated that there would be interrelations and interconnectedness between the subsystems, but it did not explain how does that interaction be, whether it should be formal, whether it should be informal. Anything is not explained in this particular approach. It just says that all the subsystems of the organization are interdependent with each other. When they interact with each other, the organization would be strengthened. So only the whole is greater than sum of its parts, as in the whole performance of all the departments should be weighed instead of individual departments' performance. But they didn't say what is the connection, what is the relationship, how the communication should be flowing. They didn't mention anything. It is only the theoretical approach, but there is no practical solution for this approach. It is about systems approach. Then we would be dealing with contingency approach. So in this contingency approach, we have discussed in our leadership theories, right? What is contingency approach? When we are talking about contingency, that is, we are talking about the situation, wherein situation plays the major role. So this contingency approach is also called as situational approach of management. In leadership theories, there we discussed this contingency approach only regarding the leadership. Now we would be discussing about the management. So in earlier days, there would be classical management theory wherein Taylor has did many works. He went to different organization, as in he has researched about different as in positions, right? So after that, he gave principles of management. So this contingency approach doesn't accept that the principles of management. It says that every organization is different. Every organization would be encountering different situations, and every organization has to deal with the situations differently, because every organization structure is different, the environment in which they are located is different, the size of the organization might be different, the technology used in the organization may be different, right? So the all organizations can't be same. There are no the first one is that there are no universal rules. Previously, before this approach, what people used to think is that one method or one particular method can be used in all the organizations. All the organizations can be working on only one principle. But contingency approach states that every organization is different. The problems or the situations encountered in every organization is different. So only based on the situation, the organization would be able to take any action. There are no universal rules that only one particular method would be implemented in all the organizations. Then comes contingency approach feels that situation is the salient factor, as in the important factor. It mostly emphasizes on the situation. Based on the situation, only the organization would be able to decide what all techniques and strategies to be used. Then comes no one best fit, as in there would be different problems in an organization, and also even for the same problem also you can't be using the same solution because the situation is different. When that problem has arrived in the past, the situation was different, and when the same problem has arisen with in the present, the situation is different. So you can't use the same solution. There is no one best fit, as in you can't use the same technique or a strategy for all the problems in the organization. Influenced by system approach. So this contingency approach has been influenced by the system approach, and it is the further after system approach only contingency approach has been developed. Then comes match fit principle, as in if you see the if this is the situation, then you would be match fit, as in leadership we have discussed, right? As in if there is a moderate or if there is a moderately favorable situations, we would be using employee oriented leader. If it is unfavorable or favorable situations, we would be using product oriented leaders or task oriented leaders. So even what management style should be used, what leadership style would be used, that would be matched according to the situation. Then comes eclectic. It follows eclectic approach, as in eclectic approach, as in they would be taking information from various sources, and then only after collecting information from the various sources, how to solve the problem, what are the subparts of this problem. So they would be verifying and taking information from the varied sources, and from that varied sources they would be taking little information, and they would club that information, and they would be using to solve the problems in the organization. Then comes if and then principle, as in, so if the situation occurs, then I would be using this principle. Based on the situation only, you would be using that technique or strategy. If this situation arises, I would be using this technique. If the other situation arises, then I would be using the other technique. Then comes promotes analytical and critical thinking. So according to contingency approach, situations would be different. It has identified that situations would be dynamic in nature, as in they would be changing. So as the situation changes, as the time changes, you have to use different strategies. In order to use that different strategies, you have to think analytically, think and creatively think, so that you would be able to come up with the new and the best solutions possible. So this is all about contingency approach. So this contingency approach creates some confusion between the managers, because they have whether in order to match and fit principles, right? So in unfavorable situations, some of them would be using employee oriented leaders, and some of them want to be, there might be only employee oriented leaders in the organization, or there might be only product oriented leaders in the organization. So there would be confusion how to use, in which situation to be used. So there would be some confusion for the for the organization. And also it is very difficult for the employees to always come up with a new solution. They might be reverting back and dealing, they wanted to use the old solution, so it might also be difficult for the employees too. So these are some of the disadvantages. Else than that, they would be using critical thinking, and they would be solving the problems, or they would be using different strategies according to the situation. This is about contingency approach to management. So yes, we are done with our syllabus.
Yes.
So if you all have any doubts.
Madam, can you give an example of any closed system?
Sorry?
Can you give an example of any closed system?
Closed systems, as in mostly we won't be in any organizations won't be closed systems, because every organization would be even the raw materials, right? So when we are talking about closed material, there might be any manufacturing companies, right? So there would be that materials, right? Like if they want silk or something, silk manufacturing companies or something. So closed system, as in they would be investing in the manufacturing of that. They would be investing in selling of that. Everything would be closed. They won't be even getting the raw materials from the environment, as in shops. They won't be going to shops to get that raw materials. They would be producing even that raw materials also. All the investment would be from them only. In today's era, mostly we use open systems. Yeah. But talking about governments as something, mostly if we are talking about the closed system, right? People would be giving example of North Korea. You all know about North Korean government, right?
Yeah.
So they would be giving.
That is a perfect example of closed system, I think.
Yes. They would be giving example of North Korea. So if you all want to see any of the slides, or should I stop the sharing of the screen?
You can share this whole slide in the group so we can forward it in the.
Actually, I'm unable to share
Acha,
because
okay.
there is a font issues or something, so I'm not being able to share this.
Just start from first slide, ma'am. Just rewind the slides.
Okay. If you're done with this, please let me know so that I'll be changing the slide.
Okay.
And meanwhile, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
Ma'am, can you elaborate this North Korean example?
North Korean, as in what happens is that the people in North Korea, generally the government, right? They won't be allowing most of the people from the outside won't be able to go to North Korea easily, and also the people in the North Korea won't be able to interact with the other countries easily. So, what is closed system? Closed system is in that there is no interaction with the environment, and they are not influenced by the other environmental factors. So even North Korean government won't be influenced by the government of other countries. They won't be having any alliances with the other countries. So mostly we would be giving example of that.
Okay.
And one more example can be a closed economy where there are no imports and exports. That
Yeah.
also normally given.
Yes. Anything which doesn't have interaction with the environment can be considered as closed systems.
Yes.
Done with this slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
How to remember this POSD, CORB for exams?
That is an acronym, right? You
Yeah.
all have in your first year practicals, you all have did mnemonics. Mnemonic
Yeah.
techniques. A part of mnemonic techniques is acronyms. You all already have the acronym. Based on that acronym, you can remember the word.
POSD, CORB.
You
Okay.
can say POSD CORB.
Yeah.
POSD CORB.
Each letter stands for the word.
Yes, yes.
To remember, we can say POSD CORB.
Mm.
Just for our convenience only.
Yeah.
Yes.
Done. Done?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, continue.
Which topic did you find interesting? Which topics did you find interesting in organizational behavior overall?
Overall,
many topics are interesting. And I think organizational change and managing organizational change is very important and relevant to the current times.
leadership qualities and that one group management, group effectiveness.
Yes, even the leadership styles.
Yes.
Done?
Yes.
Can you tell me any example of bureaucratic structure?
Bureaucratic structure in democracies, we see bureaucratic structure only in government.
Yes, all the government organizations have bureaucratic.
Or bureaucratic structures. Yeah. Done.
Yes.
Done.
Can you again revise this McKinsey?
Guys, as in you wanted me to explain.
Yes.
So McKinsey, what he gave 7 factors, which would be starting with S. So he divided these factors into hard S and soft S. So when we are talking about hard S factors, right, that are strategy, structure, and systems. Even though without communicating with the employees as such, the organization can directly change or influence these factors. But coming to shared values, style, staff, and skills, right? He divided them into soft S because even the input from the employees are also necessary in order to bring change in these 4 factors. So he said that all these 7 factors are interrelated, and in order to manage change, right? So whenever if you wanted to bring change in any one of the factor, you should be aware that how it affects the all other 6 factors. Only after analyzing the changes and effects on all the 6 factors, you should be implementing the change, so that only the change would be effective. That's
All the other slides are completed, madam.
Yes. No.
This we done, and this is done. Yeah, 1 second.
This is done.
Yeah, this is done. Done.
Yes, we are done with
Thank you so much, ma'am. PPTs are so clear and nice, actually. So it's not like boring PPT. So you feel like to learn
Yeah.
something, actually. PPTs are too good.
Yeah,
Thank
PPTs
you.
are very
Ma'am,
good.
can you explain the relationship between the leadership style and emotional intelligence?
I think I have explained even in the last class also, but okay. So when we are talking about emotional intelligence, right, we have discussed that there are the 5 factors in emotional intelligence, which are self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social skills. These are the core factors of emotional intelligence. For example, if the leader is self-aware, he is aware of himself, he knows his skills, he knows his abilities, then only he would be able to inspire others. If the leader doesn't know about himself, he won't be able to know what skills he possesses, then he won't be able to inspire others, right? Without knowing about himself, what he is capable of, everything, they can't be inspiring others. So a leader, what is the duty or the role of the leader? They have to inspire the followers or the employees. They have to motivate the employees to work towards particular goal. When the leader himself is not aware or self-regulation, if the leader doesn't have a regulation or control over his emotions, he would be eventually show his aggression on his followers, whether there is no regulation on emotions. What happens, the followers would most likely they won't be following the leader, they won't be motivated by the leader, they won't be getting inspired by the leader, right? And also the empathy. So a leader should be having empathy, as in the leader should be able to understand the employees perspective from their point of view, what would be they going through and anything, right? So he should be empathetic in nature. Then comes self motivation or motivation skills. A leader should be having motivational skills. Under leader there would be many employees or many followers, so most of the followers would be like looking at the leader as an inspiration. So these inspirational figures should be able to motivate others. So he or she should be having motivational skills. If there are no motivational skills, he won't be able to guide others or inspire others. Then comes social skills. Social skills has, as in he should be having communication skills, he should be maintaining good interpersonal relations. If he is not good at all these 5 factors, then he can't be that effective leader. Leaders, whoever wants to be a leader can be a leader just by electing or something, but in order to be an effective leader, it is important for the leader to be emotionally intelligent. So this is about the relation between them.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So yeah, thank you all.
Ma'am, in McKinsey, what are 7 factors? These are 3 factors, right, sir? Structure, system, strategy.
Yes, structure, system, and strategy are the, what is that?
Hardest.
Hardest. Yes.
Okay. Softest.
Softest includes staff, skills, and
Taps.
Style.
Style.
style,
Style, skill,
Staff.
staff,
staff. Okay. Okay.
and also shared values. This is the most important aspect which he gave. As in, if there is slightest change in these shared values, also all the other 6 factors would be affected. He has emphasized more on these shared values.
Shared values. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
But all these S are interdependent.
Yes,
Like
interdependent on each other. So it is very important for the organization. If you wanted to implement any change in any of these factors or any of these structures, parts, you have to be very careful and you have to analyze the changes which would be affecting the other factors also. Then only the change would be effective. So yes, thank you everyone. I will be
Thank you,
checking
ma'am.
now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
so much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Ma'am, any important questions?
I am not the one who would be preparing the question paper. So even if I give you any of the important questions, you would be at the loss because I am not the one who would be preparing the paper.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I feel the second year is little tougher than first year, ma'am.
Because
year-
level has been increased, right? In second year, you have to learn more. In first year, that would be relating to basics and all. In second year, you would be learning about different subfields of psychology. So
Yes,
you have to put more efforts into it.
yes, and time is less.
You have to invest in that time.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.